So lately, the last few days, I've been talking a lot about embracing kind of this the process or the idea of the process and understanding, direction versus destination. Having more again process present mind thinking versus outcome thinking. Yeah, I've kind of been having this experience lately myself. So my life, for the most part, has been a lot of this back and forth between uh, goal-directed behavior and then what I would call a more exploration type of behavior. And I think it's an important distinction to make because it really makes it clear that, for me anyways, that like you don't have to have everything figured out. Like, I'm 40 years old and I will tell you right now, I don't have everything figured out. That's just a part of life. Everything is kind of like this continuous growth, and this idea that you're supposed to just have life figured out, I think, is a very false and unhealthy idea. So yeah, last 2 years going to school was very goal directed. The moment I stepped into taking classes, the goal was to do everything to graduate and graduate within, I would say, a certain amount of time. Pretty much for me, it was 2 years. Started fall 2023, wanted to graduate by 2025. And as I was getting through it, I was pretty much set on this past May 2025. And since then, I got out, graduated, I got out, and then I had this idea of, what type of jobs and stuff I wanted to work. And those jobs did not work out. Now, recently, I got an email from Adams State University to where I applied for their graduate program, Masters of Mental Health Counseling, and I was accepted. And while, yes, I was excited, one of the things I kind of was sitting there because now I'm in this kind of like exploratory phase of really figuring out what I want to do and the path that I want to be on, or the path that I feel like I'm supposed to be on. Really kind of came into question. It's like, okay, well, is this something that I want to continue doing? And after some thought, considering that how the jobs I wanted did not work out the way that I was hoping they would. Feel like maybe the disappointment of that kind of like played into things as well, but I kind of looked at it as like, okay, well, those didn't work out. And for me, as I've mentioned in other videos, and I will mention again here, I like to do things my own way. And that means that even when it comes to doing the whole therapy and counseling thing, I also want to do that kind of my own way. I have, and not to say that I only want to stick with my own personal views, I still want to learn other perspectives, but I don't want to be following in someone else's steps, if that makes sense. So even though, yes, like the things that I wanted to work out didn't work out, this did. And so, yeah, I'm going to stick it out and keep continuing because it's something that I set out to do, and in a way I still want to do it. I just want to figure out how to do it in a way that makes sense to me and brings my life meaning. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do it the way that everyone else does. Now, why is that important? Well, again, going back to the idea of direction and not destination, and kind of just like following the path that lays before you as you can best see it is, as I said before, you don't know how things are going to work out for you. And this goes back to that whole idea that I mentioned before about the law of attraction. If you haven't seen the video, I will restate it here again, that it is attraction is based in action, that you have to keep moving towards something in order for those opportunities to kind of come to you. And just because you have a certain idea and timeline in your mind does not mean that those things are going to work out exactly the way you expected or wanted, even in the time frame that you wanted. And so letting go of those attachments to a specific idea or outcome or timeline is really beneficial, because then it opens you up to other opportunities that come available, such as this. Again, this whole thing that I'm doing here is because it's something that's also called to me. And in terms of goals and everything that I have for, these videos and whatnot, are less about the outcome and, again, more focused on the process of actually learning to talk. I can honestly say that just looking back at, or even thinking back at previous videos, that I have already started to become more comfortable with speaking to the camera. But the purpose of this really is not for anything other than trying to create the opportunities to talk more about the things that I want to talk about. And yeah, like even today, today is it's the 11th, so it's day 11. Oddly enough, it says share an experience that has changed your life. And I guess this could qualify under that. But yeah, I didn't even bother reading what the prompt is for today, because rather than kind of going off of what someone else had set up for me, or just set up that I decided to use, I'm doing it my way. That said, there are things that I want to do here that I'm kind of struggling with. And a lot of it has to do with this whole daily process of posting videos and whatnot, is that I don't feel like I have as much of the luxury of time to focus on really fleshing out those ideas to make a good quality video. And that's because this whole process right here may seem simple, but it also takes time. And yeah, that is from getting everything set up, which most of my cameras set up, like you can tell, it's the same angle for just about every video. If you watch my other videos, I use the same mic. It stays connected. I just have a switch that turns it on and off, but I still have to start the computer, turn on OBS, hit record, and then I usually sit here for a couple minutes with it recording in silence to allow myself to collect my thoughts, to center myself, and then actually sit here and talk. After that, I have to edit the video. I have to still make the thumbnail, which requires scanning through. Sometimes I forget to even pose for a thumbnail, so I have to scan through the footage to find something I find suitable, take it into Photoshop, and then, because I've stuck with a kind of standard thumbnail template that I made, that I just continuously kind of copy and paste that. But again, it still takes time. And so, yeah, like that I feel like interferes a little bit with a lot of things that I want to do. So is that an attachment to this idea of a timeline, possibly. I could see that. It's because I want to start doing those things now rather than doing what, I've been doing with, learning Python or other things I'm doing, which is just letting myself play in the learning, try to have fun with it, try to enjoy it, and let myself experiment. And just learn. Just learn what it takes to do this. And ultimately, as much as I want to do those things, that's kind of like the other thing that I want to do with this channel is, like I'm going to get my degree in counseling. I want to bring that to here and share the tools and information, education, but not just with therapy. Also, like, I like history. I like doing work on my own vehicles, especially my bikes and my 4Runner. So a lot of what I want to do here is share not just a part of me, but as much of me as possible to let the full spectrum of Josh be seen and heard, and learn how to be comfortable with sharing those aspects of all those different aspects of myself on camera with strangers, with people who, for the most part, I don't know, I probably won't ever get to know, but who in this process will probably come to know me. I don't want to be a personality, I want to be a person. And there's a video I watched last night. So the video is called How to Grow an Audience If You Have 0 Subscribers by Mark Waters. And his whole thing was, talking about like the different types of channels, I guess. He talked about 2 different types. He said there's the gardener and then the engineer. Those are 2 types of creators. The gardener is the one that just, comes here, does whatever, plants the plants, and then lets the channel kind of grow naturally. And then the engineer is the one that makes a channel with a specific goal and topic in mind. But in both cases, something he said is that the initial thing, that first step is what he called it, I guess, is from the other things. And it's a good video worth watching. But what he says is that at first, the channel has to be mostly like the value has to be completely yours, is what he said. And that's kind of what I've come to agree with, is that as much as I would like to talk about things that brings value to you, if you're still watching this, if you have made it this far at this point, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking around. But as much as I would like to be able to bring value in this process to you at this moment, the value needs to be all mine, or at least the focus on value needs to be on mine mostly. And that is so that I can allow myself to, again, play in this process and be able to experiment, find the videos that I like to make, find the videos that I don't like to make, find my own authentic voice on this platform, because pragmatics is actually a thing. Like, your authentic voice is different in different scenarios. And this is something that gets discussed in psychology, especially personality, where we think we're supposed to show up the same way all the time. You show up differently for a lover than you do for your closest friends, than you do in a business setting or work setting. And so same thing applies here. The way I show up here is going to be different than, say, in a more public environment, such as like in a classroom with classmates. The way I speak might be a little bit different. And it's usually easier, I think, with other people too, because you can respond to people's reactions. Here, guys, I'm talking to a camera. I am getting no reactions back when I'm talking about the stuff I'm talking about. So I either have to assume or just forget what those reactions are and just kind of speak with whatever I feel at the time. But still, at the same time, as I'm talking about this, yes, this is me talking it. This is me kind of putting myself out to the world, to anyone willing to sit long enough and watch this and listen to me. It's like sometimes your brain just shuts down. To anyone like willing to sit through this and listen to me, it's like I still want to have it in some way bring value. Yes, sharing this experience is for me, but in the process of sharing that experience, I'm hoping that someone else can still, whoever's watching, can still gain value from this. But yeah, going back to what I was talking about before, yeah, if you're struggling with something like this, like you just don't know what you're doing, you feel like you need to be doing something, then just do something. Let yourself explore, figure it out, and don't assume that you're trying to have it figured out. You know, that's something for me I've really had to learn to embrace. And it was harder for me. Like, I didn't have the lessons earlier in life, I guess, to really understand that. And yeah, the idea of therapy and mental health wasn't exactly one of the most common things, I guess, talked about in that time either. In fact, I wouldn't say it was entirely great sometimes. Apparently, we thought drugs could fix everything. And newsflash, they can't. So, yeah. I'm going to keep continuing in this process of just letting myself experiment. Again, the whole being accepted is great. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to follow the things that feel like they are working out for me. And if the time comes, I feel like I'm not moving the direction I need to move, then I will reassess and, one, explore why that feeling exists. But two, if it's a good reason, then it means I need to pivot and change directions and see where that path takes me. Maybe it'll take me back where I started. Again, I think this YouTube thing is a perfect example of that, because when I first started, it was more of an idea. It was like, again, it was like the same thing when I did college the first time around. It was more of an idea. It was something that was exciting and I was interested in, but it wasn't something I truly cared about. There wasn't a big why for me to do it. And yeah, even then, even though I stopped, it was something that kept calling to me. I've set up cameras and stuff multiple times trying to think about what sort of different angles I could do, what sort of videos I could do. And it took me a while to just be like, all right, let's just take a step back and just do it and see what happens. Not be too concerned about, again, what's going to be perceived on the other side, but what it means to me as I go through the process. What sort of meaning does it bring to me as I go through the process of learning it and doing it? And if I had stuck with it before, I can't say whether or not it would have ended up being good or bad. Because the simple fact is, I don't know. And I think that's something, if you deal with regrets, that's a good thing to realize is, you cannot say for certain how things would have been because you don't know. More than likely, I feel like had I stuck with it, I would not have been able to stick with it, even if I stuck with it longer, even if I kept with the focus that I was doing, which again was like the whole photos and videos and tech, which I like. I like the camera tech. I like talking about it, but I really don't care much about the new cameras and stuff. I'm more of a thrift shopper. If I can find something that does the job but is cheaper, I'd rather go that route than be concerned about what sort of technology is coming out with all these new cameras. I'm still filming on the same 80Ds that I bought like 4 or 5 years ago, and they're still doing great. So the fact that I'm here now means that it is something that I know I want to do. It's just I have to find a way to do it that agrees, I guess, with my convictions and my desires and what I want to bring in the world, not necessarily things that I think that are going to get views. But yeah, this was a bit of a long one, and I'm going to worry about editing this one later. If you got to the end here, again, thank you for staying and listening. I know sometimes these videos are hard to watch because if you don't feel like you're really getting something from it, then there's really no reason for you to be watching it. But if you did get this far, I do hope that you have at least gained some value from my life experiences, and I've at least hopefully said it in a way that you can still understand what those experiences are and how I understand them. Yeah, if you like to comment on it, share a bit of your experience, how you feel about what you're going through, and please feel free to share down below. I am always interested in, having a real connection and conversation whenever possible. And then, of course, if you like the video, hit like. If you didn't like it, free country, free world, you do what you want. And yeah, this is day 11 checked off, getting close to halfway through, and I will figure this out as I go. But until tomorrow, I'll see you later. Peace.